This was supposed to be a nice fire chat, Mr. President.
Yes, good. I got set up. I did know.
You made the job for the moderator really easy. Thank you, Mr. President, for your speech. I do have a few follow-up questions, if it's okay. Sure. I don't think I should start with Greenland, maybe. I'll start with the economy. The U.S. economy is doing really, really well. But how to sustain this growth moving forward? Because there's always a recession looming around the corner.
Welcome back, Patriots. We are witnessing history. It is January 22nd, 2026, and Donald J. Trump just walked into the belly of the beast. I'm talking about Davos, the World Economic Forum, the place where the unelected elites meet to decide how much of your freedom they want to take away this year. But this time was different. This wasn't a speech, it was a shakedown. Trump didn't go there to beg for their approval. He went there to tell them that the American era is back, and it's bigger than they ever feared. We're talking about a plan to secure the Arctic by bringing Greenland into the fold, a total obliteration of the fraud rings in the Midwest, and a deal-or-die ultimatum for the wars in Ukraine and Gaza. If you've been waiting for a leader who puts Main Street ahead of Wall Street and Davos, this is your moment. You're watching GOP Pulse. Stick around, because this is the most important breakdown we've ever done. Let's look at the economy first. Trump told the moderator something that the fake news will never admit. We were on a trajectory toward a golden age before the pandemic hit. He mentioned the pollsters, McLaughlin and Fabrizio, telling him that even Washington and Lincoln couldn't have beaten him. And why? Because the pocketbooks of the American people were full. But then, the China virus, and yes, he used the term again despite the moderators cringing, hit us. Trump's right to call out the satellites seeing body bags in Wuhan while the experts here were still telling us it was just a flu. He talked about Scott Bessent looking at the current numbers. Patriots, Bessent isn't a politician, he's a math man. And he says the potential right now is unlike anything in human history. But here's the Patriot take. The only thing that can stop us is the hidden hand. The people who want a recession because it makes you easier to control. Trump is calling them out to their faces in Switzerland. He's telling them, we don't need your globalist reset. We need American luck and American grit. Now, I want to talk about the part of the transcript that should have every American screaming for justice. Trump called out the state of Minnesota. $19 billion in fraud. He's talking about people coming into this country with nothing and leaving through our airports with bags of cash. Think about that. While you're working 50 hours a week to pay for gas and groceries, the radical left in Minnesota has turned their state into a laundromat for illegal wealth. This isn't just bad bookkeeping. This is a coordinated attack on our treasury. Trump mentioned Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche at the DOJ. He's signaling that the hammer is coming down. He said if we cut just 50% of the fraud, we balance the budget without even talking about growth. That is the secret the Democrats don't want you to know. They don't need to raise your taxes. They just need to stop stealing your money. We have professional insurrectionists and agitators running the show in these blue states, but Trump is sending the auditors in. The GOP pulse is beating for accountability, and Minnesota is just the beginning. This part was fascinating. Trump talked about his meeting with Mark Zuckerberg. Now, we know Zuckerberg hasn't always been a friend to our movement, but even he has to bow to the reality of the Trump economy. Trump described an AI plant the size of Manhattan. Think about the scale of that. But here is the genius America First angle. Trump told these tech giants, you build your own electricity. He knows our national grid is old. He knows the Green New Deal radicals have tried to starve our energy sector. So he's telling the AI companies, you want to build the future? Fine. But you aren't going to drain the power from the American worker. You build your own plants, and then you sell the excess back to our grid at a cheap price. That is how a dealmaker thinks. He's turning a private sector boom into a public sector energy solution. He's letting them innovate while protecting your light bill. That is the Trump way. Then we get to the world stage. Greenland. The elites in the room probably thought it was a joke in 2019, but they aren't laughing now. Trump is looking at the Arctic as the next frontier of national security. He's calling out Denmark, politely but firmly. It's costing them hundreds of millions to run, and it's a strategic necessity for us. Why wouldn't we make a deal? And look at the Ukraine/Russia situation. Trump used the word stupid. He said if Zelensky and Putin don't get a deal done, they're stupid. He's tired of the bloodbath. He's tired of the drones killing thousands of young men every week while the military-industrial complex in D.C. licks its chops. He mentioned Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner working the phones. We have a president who is actually reasonably close to ending a war that Joe Biden couldn't even understand. And on the Middle East, he was even clearer. He told Hamas, "You were born with a rifle, but you'll die by the sword if you don't give them up." He's using the B-2 bombers and the Tomahawks as the ultimate diplomacy tool. Peace through strength isn't a slogan. It's a reality when you have a president who isn't afraid to use the tools at his disposal. Trump closed by introducing his team. Marco Rubio, unanimously confirmed. Susie Wiles. Howard Lutnick. These aren't just names. They are the front line of the 2026 revolution. He's drilling more oil and gas than ever before, double what we used to do. He's got...
Well, you know, the one thing about economies and recessions is sometimes you get hit unexpectedly and there's nothing you can do about it. All brilliant people, but there's nothing. One example was COVID. We had an economy going at levels like nobody had ever seen my first 2.5, 3 years. And then I heard the word pandemic, not COVID. They came up with that name over a period of time. We won't get into that. But I heard the word pandemic. And I had a poll come out that was so strong just prior to that, and I was with the two best pollsters, McLaughlin, Fabrizio, and they said, "Sir, George Washington and Abraham Lincoln, if they came back and ran as president and vice president, they couldn't beat you." And then what happened is the following day, I was told to stay tuned because there's something really bad happening in China. There are bodies laying all over Wuhan, right around that certain building that we talk about. I always said it came from Wuhan. It did come from Wuhan. And they were body bags. We saw it by satellite. And they said, there are strange things happening in China. And so it began. And we ended up with the COVID, and the whole world suffered. We did a phenomenal job. I don't think we got the credit we deserved. We did something that Operation Warp Speed, which some people say was one of the greatest military feats ever. We did a great job. Used our military, used a lot of people. But sometimes you get hit with things, nothing you can do. You get hit with things like that unexpectedly. And we got through it. And when I left, the stock market was higher than it was previous to the COVID coming up. And that was, I called it a great achievement. But things happen. Bad things happen. The things that we can stop are wars if we're smart. That we can stop. Those are a matter of being intelligent and having intelligent people on the other side. Because wars are the worst of all. Wars are worse than anything. But we can stop wars because that's sort of up to us. But things like dust flying in the air, wherever COVID comes from or whatever comes, sometimes you have to be a little bit lucky. But we are poised to have an economy like no other, not only in this country, but anywhere. And you know, when you hear the kind of numbers that, I can tell you that Scott Bessent was with me the other day, and he's looking at numbers. He said, I can't. And that's all he's done his whole life, pretty much your whole life. Scott, you weren't going to be a football player, I don't think. Scott was not that great at football, but he was always good at numbers, right? And he was looking at numbers. He said, I've never seen anything like this. We're poised to do things that no other country has ever done. And, you know, luck, I hate to say it, but we need a little luck. We don't want to get hit by something that nobody could have thought. Whoever thought we were going to hit by a pandemic? You know, when I heard the word pandemic, I said, oh, that's an ancient problem. World War I, they lost 100 million people. It actually ended World War I. A lot of people don't know. The Spanish flu in World War I ended the war because all the soldiers were sick. The soldiers were so sick on both sides. And that war was raging, and they were all dying from the Spanish flu. They were sick as dogs. They couldn't fight. So, you know, you don't know how that would have turned out. But so we do, I mean, subject to that, and I always have to put a caveat in for it, but we're poised to have the greatest growth of any large country, I think any country that there's been. When you look at what's happening in the United States, it's really amazing.
The #1 oil man, Chris, right on the job. Patriots, the energy in that room in Davos was palpable. They know the era of the global citizen is over. The era of the American patriot has returned. But don't think for a second the swamp is going to go quietly. They're going to fight these audits. They're going to fight the Greenland deal. They're going to fight the peace treaties because they thrive on chaos. That's why GOP Pulse exists. We are the digital infantry. I need you to go to the comments right now. I want to see America first, or audit the fraud in the chat. Let the algorithm know that we are awake and we are many. Subscribe to this channel, hit that notification bell, because we are uploading twice a day until the swamp is dry. I'm your host, and this is GOP Pulse. God bless you, and God bless America.